You're up first on your bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chairman.
morning.
Thank you, committee. The Sergeant at Arms is kindly handing out some information that I asked for your patience in letting me share. Much of the information being handed to you is public record, but not public knowledge. And I think it's going to clarify the purpose of the bill when you see the information being shared. In looking at my bill, I've been looking at background information to bring to you today, and when I look at the bill and it says provides relative to abortions and the woman's right to know law, I want to make sure it's understood this provides to the care of women and an expectation. And I would like to proceed. I'm going to try to summarize. I know you do have a time crunch,
Now,
Mr.
let me ask
Chairman.
really quickly, you do have a set of technical amendments. Would you like those technical amendments addressed right now, and then it'll put it in the posture of the bill that you need?
That would be great.
Okay, we have a set of technical amendments, set 601. Ms. Peck, did you have anything to add? It seems like they're mostly technical. Okay. Is everybody okay with the technical amendments? We have a motion from Senator Hinchkins to adopt those amendments. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, those amendments are adopted. Amendment 601. So now you're in the posture that you need of your bill. So it's all
Thank you,
yours.
Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you all for hearing this bill, and I want you to know clearly that the information within it is critical and is relevant to the health and safety of the women of the state. There is a counseling appointment when a woman walks into an abortion clinic. That counseling appointment is the last and only chance the woman has to receive the information to really know what she's about to be involved in, who's going to be giving her care, and the background of those in that facility. Louisiana has had a long history of not quality care. And some of that goes back to 1999 when Julie Baxter, who's now a lawyer working for Governor Edwards, investigated some unsafe conditions. There were things that were found that were disturbing at that time, and because of that, Louisiana created the outpatient abortion licensing law, which with the Department of Health and the Board of Medical Examiners has required that licensed qualified doctors perform these abortions in sanitary conditions and assisted by quality nursing staff. This is a basic level of expectation of care. When you have a wisdom tooth removed, you expect sanitary conditions and quality care by licensed providers. And I'm going to go through this quickly because there is a binder right here that has the disciplinary records and the deficiencies from across the state that will be shared. I believe that abortion advocates claim and we expect a legal and safe process for an abortion, but it's not safe if the facilities do not follow the safety protocols, and that's something that we're discussing today. Most women don't know that when they walk into a clinic, what the background information is of that clinic. You're not told these things. Some of the clinics don't allow a woman to walk in with her telephone. You can't look it up. So what this bill is asking is that at that counseling appointment, a woman would be given in writing the name of the doctor who will perform the abortion, listed the same way as it would appear on the State Board of Medical Examiners records. Right now, the doctor only has to give his name orally. The woman may not hear it. She may not understand it or know how to spell it. The only way she knows how to look this person up is by being given it in writing. And if I may share, I just had a procedure done. My doctor's name was a foreign name. If he had not given me his card, I would not have even known how to spell it or pronounce it. So it's a basic level of expectation. Also would be given in writing the location and specialty of the physician's residency and whether it was completed successfully. Right now, no information is provided. And generally, it's not available because the doctors do not post the public information about themselves. Also in writing would be whether the doctor has active admitting privileges at any hospital that provides OB or GYN services, and if so, the name of that hospital. The law requiring admitting privileges is currently enjoined by federal court, but this is information that's shared by oral surgeons or any medical professionals that have office-based surgery offers this. In writing would be whether the doctor has malpractice insurance that would cover the abortion procedure. So currently that's because of the anonymity of the doctor and the fact that doctors are non-doctors from out of state. This information would be important to know when she's seeking help from a medical professional. In writing would be whether in the last 10 years a doctor's been placed on probation, reprimanded, had his license suspended or revoked by any professional licensing organization. Right now, that's not available. It's not disclosed. This is information a woman has a right to know their doctor's history, and because of the anonymity in the clinics, they're not able to determine this. In writing would also be the internet address for disciplinary records of the LSBME. This is a resource that's just relevant to the disciplinary history of the medical professional that should be given to her at the counseling appointment. Everything that would be given in writing would help, because before you're given any sort of medication that makes you not aware of the information that's being given to you orally, she would have a chance to make a conscious decision and use her best judgment rather than any kind of judgments affected by the medication she would be given. And I'm going to focus on, if you don't mind, just the summary of violations that by giving the patient an opportunity to be better informed, we could alleviate. The opportunity is there to rectify some of these issues. Right now, there's dangerous handling and administration of anesthesia. There is a lack of supervision of patients under anesthesia. There's unlicensed, untrained personnel administering and handling controlled substance. There's failure to account for controlled dangerous substances. All clinics are failing to properly document anesthesia, including the time, dosage, and the patient's vital signs. There's lack of patient monitoring. There's lack of sufficient staff, an example of which is a doctor in 2018 told the owner he was inadequately staffed in the procedure room, and in 2013 there was no registered nurse on staff at the facility. There's no credentialing procedures. There's no accountability of the administrator, owners, doctors, and medical director. A consistent pattern of providing inaccurate information on induced termination of pregnancy reports to the LDH. There's poor or non-existent credentials as recognized by the U.S. Fifth Circuit in the June medical case. Staff performing abortions without a doctor present. There's staff causing a woman to have an abortion who came only to have an ultrasound, and these are from records I think that we are all aware of from Dr. Work's disciplinary records. There's botched procedures. Inadequate and expired medications, including those needed for emergencies, inadequately sterilized equipment, and inadequate policies and training on sterile procedures, not following of hand washing protocols. There's torn procedure beds and torn recliners in recovery room, permitting body fluids to soak into the furniture. There's failure to clean recliners and blankets used by bleeding patients, exposing them to blood-borne pathogens. Failing to test staff for tuberculosis at all clinics. Unsanitary conditions ripe for cross-contaminations in multiple places. In 2004, a report was given that 46 abortions were performed in one day using non-sterile instruments. There's unlicensed, inadequately trained staff performing ultrasounds and evaluating fetal tissue. There's violations of HIPAA. There are pre-filled, unlabeled, uncapped syringes, pre-filled and pre-signed prescriptions, reuse of single-use equipment and use of expired medications, intentional destruction of patient records, which is a possible felony, failing to comply with mandatory reporting on minors, evidenced by failure to report the rape of a minor. The Department of Health found one clinic had no IV fluids on at all at the clinic, and when that was a first level response needed when a woman was called for an ambulance there. I think the point I'm trying to make is that whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, the care of the woman who is in a situation desperate enough to go in to seek an abortion has got to meet the level of expectation for the care we would give anybody. People love animals. You wouldn't take your vet in situations, we're expecting women to go in and submit themselves to a surgical procedure. And I believe that's what the bill wants to do. The bill wants to bring the level of expectation up and rectify those deficiencies that are there. And I appreciate the committee's time.
Thank you very much. Did you want your statements that you gave, would you like to reflect that in the minutes? Would you like?
I
to
would.
reflect
I
that in
would
the
like
minutes?
that put into the
Okay,
record,
fine.
please. Thank you.
And we do have a question from Senator Cleary, but I'd like to ask one question. Everything you've just cited, has that been from inspections from the Board of Medical Examiners, information? What is your documentation on your findings?
I believe that's in the binder, and that's
The
in the
binder that you're
information.
presenting,
Some of
okay.
it is from reports from the Department of Health.
So it's
Some of it is from various court records. I've got some
so
folks here who would
it's
be able to.
footnoted either where it's from inspections or information that's been.
Yeah, I don't have the exact location, but.
I'd like to call
you
up
know, you may
Ms.
have
Merle
the
if you
question.
can, just because there's a lot of statements made, and I just want to make sure that
Right.
this is properly documented for both sides.
You can submit.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Liz Merle. I'm from the Attorney General's office. I think that Senator Mizell can submit the materials in this binder that back up all of the comments that she's made. They're deficiency reports from LDH. They are disciplinary records from the Medical Examiners Board. They are a number of other miscellaneous records. I think one of the records in here that is and I read through these materials that was really rather shocking to me was the grand jury report from Kermit Gosnell's grand jury investigation. He was a doctor in Philadelphia who's now in prison for murder. And the same owner of the clinic who ran that clinic owns two of the three clinics here in Louisiana, and I think most people don't know that. They don't know who the owners of these clinics are. Leroy Brinkley is the owner of that clinic, and he's the owner of two of the three clinics here. The other two owners are people who are also from out of state. There's a lot of lack of accountability, and it is the same type of lack of accountability that we saw that led to the Gosnell debacle, and women literally died, were maimed, babies were killed. I don't see, I mean, when you read through these deficiency reports, what you see is an accident waiting to happen, either to women, I mean, certainly to women. I mean, the conditions in the clinics, and I think that it's a good bill because it requires at least some information to be given to women in writing that they can validate and check through public records. All of this information they could find in the public records if they knew who the doctor was that was about to perform the procedure on them. But they don't get that information in writing. They get it orally, and they get it 24 hours before they have an abortion. And so I think that it's a good change that actually enhances the ability of someone to check before they submit themselves to a procedure that can certainly have long-term consequences for them, even if, you know, I mean, I defend these cases for the state. I defend all of these laws. And the very first paragraph of every petition that's filed against the state in every law is that abortion is a safe procedure. There's no procedure that's safe if it's in the hands of a doctor who's not qualified, nursing staff who's not qualified, sometimes not nursing staff at all, and unsanitary conditions. So I think that this allows someone to get access to information that they would not otherwise obtain, or be able to obtain, and that's because, for the most part, you can't find the names of the people to find it. You can't know it unless you go to the clinic to have those services where the law requires them to orally tell you who's going to do it. And this, I think, improves that situation by at least allowing the woman to get information in writing and have at least 24 hours to be able to vet the person who's about to literally put blunt instruments into her body that could cause her to never be able to have children, or have sepsis, or plenty of the other conditions that are known complications from abortions.
Thank you very much. Senator Claytor for a question.
Yes. Thanks. And whoever can answer this would be helpful to me. And I think this may be for you, Ms. Merle. But when I look at these that come out here, I consistently vote pro-life. But as a lawyer, I look at it and I go, what are we stepping into in this particular incident? And sometimes we don't care and we just step into it, and other times we do care. And so, part of the discussion that we had here was, I think you talked about if you're getting your wisdom tooth out or some other things, and we'll never be able to make a fair comparison on what we're talking about. But are there any other procedures that people undergo to where they get all of this information? Like, it's if I went to get my appendix out, am I going to get all this information about
Senator
the doctor?
Clater, if I can speak to that question, if you went to have your, and I can give you a personal story. My son had his wisdom teeth out last week. The doctor's name is on a sign outside the clinic. He's a medical doctor. I can go to the website and I can see all of his credentials. I can see that he has privileges at Our Lady of the Lake. I can look that up at Our Lady of the Lake. I can look up his disciplinary records at the Medical Examiners Board's website, because I can find out who he is from the sign outside his door. And when I go to consult with him, which is typically at least a couple of weeks before they schedule the procedure, I have plenty of time to find out and check on that doctor before I undergo any kind of procedure. And the clinic itself does have, they check to make sure that a driver was there to take him home because he was under some anesthesia to have that surgery done. What you see in these records is no confirmation that even drivers are there to drive women home after they've been put under sedation. So you don't see compliance. Is what you don't see is the same compliance, and you don't see access to information. So no, the answer is no, that you don't get the same information, because you can get it easily from other public sources. So you don't need it because you can obtain it through many, many sources. You can't do that with an abortion clinic.
And I know very little about that, and so that's why I'm asking the question. But it does sound as though we're creating an equal protection issue potentially, and that's why I'm asking. Where I would bet, or the information you provided us in your packet, I definitely don't think I could look up the information on the doctors. I don't even think they live in Louisiana. Is that correct?
The doctors have to be doctor. They have to be doctors licensed in Louisiana at this time. The other laws that you've all passed requiring admitting privileges and requiring that they be OBGYNs or family practice doctors are currently enjoined, but they do have to be licensed doctors. What that doesn't answer is, where do they live? Are they doctors in your community? Are they credentialed? Can you get anything, information? Is there any level of peer review of their credentialing, or any actual credentialing taking place by the clinic that has hired or contracted with that doctor? And the answer to that is no, there isn't any. And so you don't have the same kind of safety net that you have with doctors that are living in your community, have privileges at the hospital, are Medicaid providers and things like that, where they undergo a significant multi-level, their insurance. This is a cash pay business. They're not insurance. They're not covered. They're not in insurance networks. They're not in Medicaid. It's cash pay. They're not vetted through the National Practitioners Database.
There's no board.
There's no credentialing, which is demonstrated by their own deficiency reports. So they've acknowledged there's not a credentialing process that's really taking place in the hiring. And so, I'm not concerned about an equal protection problem. I think that this information that we are submitting to you demonstrates and justifies the law that's being passed, and that it's a good
All right, and
improvement.
I don't know that we don't have the same sort of binder on some oral surgeon, which is why I'm asking on that. And I'm not trying to create a problem for you, Bill. I understand what you're saying. I'm just asking questions about where we are on page 2 on line 25 through 27, where it says, for the purposes of this section, the professional discipline action must be disclosed even if it was stayed or suspended. Do we do that to other service, anesthesiologists and others? Do they?
That information's publicly available. If you know the name of the person, then you can access that information through the medical examiners or you can actually go to the pharmacy board and see if someone's license has been suspended or revoked. You can go to the LSMBE's website and see what the status is of their discipline. The same thing, I think, is true with nurses and but you have to know who they are
To find it, to find the info.
to find
Okay.
that information.
Okay, so that's an example of where I'm asking are we asking something out of the ordinary for these people? And you're saying just simply knowing the name, then you would be able to find the information as well.
That's correct.
Right,
All right.
right. The name in writing is key.
All right.
You
Okay.
can look up their medical malpractice suits as well. You can, if you know how to do that, I know how to do that.
Right, but I'm
It's
going
not
down
hard
to
to do that. You
to
can
the
go to the
19th
clerk of court and
JDC
ask.
to do that.
But you
So-
have to have a name.
Yeah, I hear you. So that's the general direction of my questions, and that's I admire what you're trying to do. I think it's very important to have all this information. I gather this type of information, particularly if I'm going to have to say yes or no to a surgery for my child. We had these other people in here talking about SMA. They want to know information as it relates to the medical treatment of their children. I'm just wanting to know if we're creating an avenue for people to challenge us more so, where you're saying the women are entitled to this information. I get that. I don't want to get bit on the backside.
Well, and if I can comment because I want to tell you that we are being challenged. We are always challenged on almost everything that you do. And I think that you just cannot regulate in this space without expecting to be challenged. One of the lawsuits that I'm defending right now is challenging virtually every regulation that you have passed. And if you read these reports, you will be stunned. I mean, it's appalling to think that Julie Baxter documented in 2000, before we had licensing, what the situation was. And so we implemented licensing to try and moderate and make sure that there was some supervision of the conditions in the clinics. And that's why they are licensed. But today, I am defending a lawsuit that challenges the entire outpatient abortion licensing law regime, even in the face of multiple instances across all the clinics of continued violations that do threaten health and safety and welfare of people. So might it be challenged? It might be challenged. I can't promise you that it won't. I would expect that they always are.
Yeah, and there's a difference between challenged and who's got $235 to file a lawsuit and has a reasonable chance of success on what they do. But we get in here and everybody's afraid to ask these questions that are legitimate questions because they don't want to appear to be not be pro-life. And these are questions. That's what we do. We come to committee and
Appreciate
we
your
have these
question.
questions. So as it relates to the findings of fact, none of this language is new in the findings of fact section, correct? Not findings of fact, but legislative intent. No new information in there.
No, nothing beyond what you've heard today. It's simply to aid us in defending the legislation if, in fact, it is challenged. And I think it's helpful to have legislative findings when you defend the legislation.
Yeah, but we had no additional language. It's just there for us to put the bill in context.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Clater. Senator Hinchkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Senator Mizell, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing the legislation. I mean, when you're making such a big decision in your life, more information is better.
Right.
And when you can get none, that is not a way to be making a decision this important in someone's life. And that being said, Mr. Chairman, just at the proper time, I'd like to report as amended.
We'll note that. We do have some opposition that does want to speak, so we will note that. But I will note that. Thank you. Senator Barrow?
We have opposition, just point of order, on the bill or on the amendment?
On the bill.
Oh, okay. So, Senator Mizell, just kind of walk me through how this would work, because currently when someone goes in or whatever, they don't have this information available to them. So tell me how this would actually work.
I believe they're given the information orally.
Orally?
Orally.
Okay.
So this would allow the patient to be given a set of information. Just, I compare it to a procedure I just had, and when I went in, they handed me, all the follow-up, what to expect when it was over, the name of the person conducting the procedure. They didn't tell me orally because you have enough anxiety and you're mentally worried about 1,000 things. But after it was done, I had in hand, I had something in hand that gave me all the information I needed. This would be given at the counseling appointment prior to the procedure itself. So the woman would be able to go home ideally and check, okay, this is I'm confident or I have no confidence. They're going to know from that point what the staff is, what the background is on the medical professional taking care of her, and ideally feel some confidence that she's made a decision that she knows fully all the information she needs to know.
So this is just really providing additional tools as an individual is contemplating this decision, that they have everything that they need. And certainly this is can be a life-changing, life-altering decision.
Right.
And receiving this information orally, you may not even retain a tenth of it because, there's a lot going on.
Exactly.
In terms of processing what you're thinking about. There's a lot of things that happen or that can happen during that process. So you just want to make sure that they have it in writing.
In writing, they would have the name and be able to get the background as deeply as they wanted to look. They may not want to look at all, but if they need the option,
But at
just
least
like
they
you
have
would
the
have in
option.
any procedure, and they would have that in hand rather than trying to retain it in their memory when they're going through that mental process.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Senator Erdy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Mizell, or either one can answer. And I hate to use this comparison, but if I were going in for a colonoscopy, let's say, the information that I have available to me, is that any different than what your bill is requiring of those the women are going for an abortion? Would it be a fair comparison, I guess, if I'm going into...
My expectation, it would be similar. Because you're still going to be given your medical professional's name. You're going to be given the ability to look as far back as you want to. You can get as much information as you want to as a patient based on the knowledge of knowing the doctor's name.
And Senator Erdy, if you do want any further expertise, the Board of Medical Examiners does have representation here if you do want to know any of that information from another source, just to let you know.
And
I think, Senator Erdy, the other thing that you can tell when you go to have a colonoscopy, for one thing, whether there's an insurance or multiple insurance companies who have credentialed that doctor. If he's in network, he has to submit to some credentialing through the insurance company. If he's a Medicaid provider, he has to comply with Medicaid rules and regulations that are supervised by both the federal and the state government. And then there's the Medical Examiners Board. So there can be, a lot of providers have a lot of levels of oversight that comes in at different levels that you just don't see at an abortion clinic. So, and starting with the name of the doctor, usually on the website. You can see on their website, you can go, you can see what all their credentials are, you can see where they went to medical school, what residencies they completed, what their board certifications are, where their privileges are, and what insurance they receive and are covered by. And so all of that gives you some degree of confidence. And then you can also take that name and you can go look his name up in the medical examiner's website and see if he's been disciplined. You can do that all before you ever even make an appointment. You cannot do that at an abortion clinic.
Well, that's the point. And I think you hit on the key word was confidence. Because anytime you go for a procedure, whatever it may be, you want confidence in knowing that the outcome's going to be successful. And, of course, if it's not, then we have to have some sort of discipline there or availability of information we can go to get some help in that situation. So, and Senator Mizell, thank you for bringing this bill. As a pro-life person myself, I see no difference in terms of someone getting a lady getting an abortion as compared to any other procedure out there. There should be the safety should be the first and foremost to the patient.
Right.
And that's got to be top. So, and I appreciate you bringing the bill.
Thank you, Senator Erdy. The board is clear. We do have one more person in affirmation of support, Mr. Ben Clapper. Did you want to testify, Mr. Clapper? So in support, I'll read in support who's put put cards in. Mr. Ben Clapper, Louisiana Right to Life. Rob Tasman, Louisiana Conference of Catholic Bishops. Charles Charpentier, Baton Rouge Right to Life. Dale Hoffman, Louisiana Family Forum. Charles Rossman, represent himself. Helen Caver, Louisiana Family Forum. Gideon Rossman, represent himself. Christy Cross, Louisiana Family Forum. And Cleely Carpenter, all in support. For informational purposes, Miss Elizabeth Merle and Joseph St. John, Deputy with the Attorney General's Office. We've had anybody else in support wants to testify? We do have opposition to the bill and wishing to testify, Angela Atkins. Angela, please come up, and I'll read the cards in opposition. Angela Atkins with Louisiana Now. Laura Fine with Lift Louisiana. Stephanie Bagnell with New Orleans Abortion Fund. Tyler Jack, represent himself, and D.W. Hunt, Planned Parenthood. Ms. Atkins, welcome to the committee, and we welcome your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Angela Atkins, and I am the Legislative Director for Louisiana Now. But what I'm here to do today is read testimony into the record on behalf of Michelle Ehrenberg with Lift Louisiana. She is the Executive Director of Lift Louisiana, a nonprofit organization that provides policy and legal analysis on issues impacting reproductive health, rights, and justice. I think we can all agree that the pregnant women, whether they are carrying the pregnancy to term or not, deserve the highest quality of care. However, this bill is not actually seeking to improve the health of women in Louisiana. Rather, it is intended to be burdensome and to single out abortion providers for disparate treatment. Current law already requires that a woman, in order to give informed consent to an abortion, must receive the name of the physician who will perform the abortion. And while clinics are not currently required to provide information about the physician's background and qualifications, neither is any other medical provider required to provide this information in writing to their patients. As with any other physicians, patients who are seeking information about the disciplinary record of their doctor can find this information by contacting the Louisiana State Board of Medical Examiners. A quick Google search of abortion providers practicing in Louisiana turned up pages including the location and specialty of the physician's residency, as well as their board certification and their medical specialty of the certifying organization. The legislative findings outlined in this bill claim that abortion carries known health risks occurring as a result of procedures at Louisiana abortion clinics. It is important to be honest that these are also the known risks of pregnancy and childbirth. In fact, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists state that the risk of dying from giving birth is 14 times greater than the risk of dying from an early abortion. In fact, the recently conducted maternal mortality review report found that 47 maternal deaths occurred between 2011 and 2016 were pregnancy-related, and the majority of them occurred at a hospital. During this period, pregnancy-related deaths in Louisiana increased by an average of 34% per year. Based on estimates of maternal mortality by the National Center for Health Statistics, Louisiana ranks 47th out of 48 reportable states. Women are dying of childbirth in Louisiana, not abortions. If we are concerned about the health and safety of pregnant women, why would this not be a requirement of all physicians providing care to pregnant women? Why just single out abortion providers? The intent of the bill claims this information will help women make an informed decision about whether to obtain an abortion from a particular physician at a given abortion facility. This legislature has seen to it that women no longer have much choice by regulating abortion clinics out of business, leaving women with only 3 licensed clinics left in the state. Where else are women supposed to go? This serves no medical purpose. This bill also claims that a significant number of physicians who have performed abortions at Louisiana outpatient abortion facilities in recent years have been subject to professional discipline and malpractice claims. There is no evidence that this is true or that claims against abortion providers exceed those of other OB/GYNs of family medicine physicians. If the goal of the legislation is transparency, this can be accomplished by printing the internet address for disciplinary records of the Louisiana State Board of Medical Examiners in the Woman's Right to Know booklet, which clinics are already required to give to each patient. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'm not sure if it's for you or whatever, but Senator Clayton has a question.
I'm going to
Yes,
wait
sir.
until all speakers.
He'll wait. He'll hold up on that. Thank you very much.
And I would like to add one thing. The primary reason that abortion doctors do not stick a big sign out on the front door with their name on it is because of the protesters that are also outside those clinics. They are in danger. They've been murdered in their churches, in their homes, walking to dinner with their wives and families. It is dangerous for them because of the protesters outside these clinics, not because someone is trying to deceive patients.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
The board is clear. Senator Mizell, if you'd like to close, and there may be a question before closing.
No, I have a question. If it
Would you like to call up?
it wasn't a white card, but I saw Dr. Collada.
Dr. Collada's here.
Where I just thought I could ask a question about
Sure.
of him.
Dr. Collada's always of service. You can testify, and then we'll get it. Thank you, Doctor. Senator Clayton, it's all yours.
Thank you. Dr. Collada, I've been fortunate enough here in town that whenever I needed a procedure or one of my children needed a procedure or my wife needed a procedure, I knew the doctor from growing up with them. And so or they were like Dr. Broyles, been around forever. So I didn't have to do a whole lot of searching. And so what I'm interested in that I've heard from the opponents and the proponents, what are the doctors required to do as far as, I'm not talking about people that perform abortions, other doctors, as far as disclosing what information is out there on them? Do they have to provide in writing and orally their location and specialty of their residency? Do they have to tell whether they're board certified before they do a procedure? Do they have to tell you whether or not they have admitting privileges? And do they have to tell you whether or not they have malpractice insurance?
Senator Mills, Senator Clayton, members of the committee, the Board of Medical Examiners does not regulate those issues. I want to make that perfectly clear.
Yes, sir.
We do not even require anyone to tell us their specialty, so that will not always be even on the website. I will tell you that full disclosure is something that all of us are taught in medical school and answer questions truthfully. On a consent form, it would have to say who's going to do the procedure. It's going to say where the procedure is going to be done. But much past that, it is the interaction between the patient and the doctor that occurs in the lead-up visits to a procedure and after a procedure that those kinds of things are ironed out. Most everyone is associated with a hospital. If we're doing a surgical procedure, it's either in a hospital or a surgery center, and those physicians are credentialed because they are accredited by the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Hospitals. And that's where the credentialing comes in.
Which is what you
We provide the basic credentials of a license through the Board of Medical Examiners. We do not credential by specialty. Hospitals do because they grant privileges based on the ability of the surgeon and the training of the surgeon. For example, while I have a license to practice medicine in Louisiana, I would never get privileges to do neurosurgery in any credible hospital. But I would get privileges to GYN based upon my residency and training.
all right? And your organization does discipline, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And at what point do you disclose discipline on your website? Where I'd asked a question about discipline that's been stayed or suspended. Is that available on your website?
Whenever the board makes a decision that either is a consent order, a judgment, or the result of a hearing, it's published, it's on the website, it's available through the www.lsbme.la.gov with a blue radio button that says disciplinary actions. You click on it, you place the name of the physician in it. You can search all our history, or back 5 years, or just back, and you can search by first name, last name, or whatever you choose. Sometimes if you don't get the names right, as the lady alluded to, you might not get it, but you can start using shorter versions of the name, and sometimes you can find it. All of these are completed processes, and they are the final decisions of the board. We do not publish, and we are, by statute, to protect physicians, close cases. When complaints come in, we do the investigations. We don't report that because no discipline occurred. So there are certain statutes that protect both the complainants and the physicians in those situations. But again, when a final decision is made by the board to execute discipline, it is made public.
All right, and as far as sort of a public service question, if anybody's not happy with the sanitary conditions or what's going on at their doctor's office or things of that sort, they can call your organization and make you all aware of it, and you'll investigate it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have two full-time people and answer the phone. We have the online form that they can fill out, and we help people if they don't know how to fill out the online form to get a complaint. We are prohibited from initiating a complaint most of the time. An investigation, unless there's a complaint, unless through special procedures. But any complaint is investigated.
All right. And sorry to put you on the spot, but you were here, and the questions about that, I know it's only a white card that you're providing information only, but it's important to help us make a decision. I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you, Dr. Collada, for the work that you always do. We appreciate you. The board is clear. Senator Mizell, if you'd like to close, the committee would entertain that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. I wanted to make sure that this binder is submitted as record of the testimony.
So noted.
Okay, thank you, because that really explains the reasoning for the bill.
That in your statement to the committee.
Thank you. In closing, I just want to say that we've passed a lot of laws to protect the interest of the citizens of Louisiana for their health and safety, and the women of Louisiana deserve adequate care in the way they're given the health care, no matter what source that might be. And I'm just asking for your favorable support today. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Senator Hinchkins to report Senate Bill 221 with amendments to report it. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, that has passed unanimously. Senate Bill 221 will be reported with amendments.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have a motion to adjourn by Senator Clater. There will not be any opposition. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Thank you, Doc.